Morning.
Morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh no, Chris isn't here, isn't he?
We need to get hugger mugger in this conversation.
Yeah, we do.
I love that word.
Brilliant. The
I
four
never
amigos
looked
hugger muggering.
I'd never looked it up before.
I never heard of it.
Oh well, I've heard it, but yeah, it's not common. Anyway, yeah, it's almost as common as green and yellow hammers. Morning all, and today we are the four amigos on film again, and we're going to talk today about support after diagnosis.
Oh yeah, this will be over in a minute, won't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a think about this over a cup of tea just now, and I must admit I had to get myself into the right place to be thinking, well, what could I have had? So what didn't I get? Anyway, over to you folks. Well, us. What happened? What happened immediately after you were given your diagnosis for a few weeks afterwards?
Nothing.
Yep.
Nothing.
Did you? I mean, everybody's laughing, yeah, and nodding. But nothing as in, did you get a visit from a community support worker or anything?
Not for a long time.
No.
I had the occupational therapist around. I think I've discussed this before, where she spoke mainly to my husband and not me, but said that I was coping well because my house was cleaned.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's always a good sign that you haven't got anything wrong with you.
Yeah, she can clean. The other thing for me was that after they've given you all the leaflets, they give me a piece of paper and told me that if I was struggling with receiving my diagnosis, to phone this number and it would be a counsellor, and I could make an appointment to see a counsellor. This has always stuck because I think counselling services are brilliant for people that have problems, because it's a way of talking and getting it out.
Yeah.
And so I rang the number and a lady answered the phone and said, can I take your name? And she took all my details. And then she said, and why do you think you need the counselling service? And I said, well, I've just had a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, and I think I'm struggling with it a little bit, and I'd just like somebody to talk to. She said, sorry, what was your diagnosis? I said, Alzheimer's. She said, I'm sorry, but no, it's not really a service that would be any good to you, because you'd just forget. And I was absolutely gobsmacked, and I got back onto the phone to the memory clinic and said, you've given me a number here. You told me that I could get a counselling service to help me, and they won't help anybody that's got Alzheimer's, dementia, because we'll just forget. Oh, well, I didn't know that. Oh, I'll get onto it. Perhaps ring this other number. It might have been that you was in the wrong area. So I rang this other number and got the same response. No, we can't do counselling for anybody that has dementia. It took them, I think, about 12, 16 weeks to try and sort out a counsellor. By this time, I'd sorted myself out. I'd found my own way to sort of get it into my head by looking online and trying to find groups. And that's how I cope with it, by finding a group.
Yeah. What about Teresa? You've got your card up.
Yeah, there was nothing at all for, I think it was 3 months before somebody from the Alzheimer's Society came, a dementia advocate. I can't remember what she said, because she spoke to my daughter more than me. So
Again.
And then they sent a CPN nurse, who I don't even know what it stands for.
Community psychiatric nurse.
Oh, right. Well, she came twice,
Hmm.
and gave her phone number to my daughter. And then when my daughter was trying to ring her, that she'd never answer.
So, interesting why they would send or refer you to a CPN, psychiatry, because you have which sort of dementia?
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. Well, that's a physical thing, not a psychiatric thing.
I also got a CPN,
Yeah.
but she admitted that she came to me to learn about young onset dementia because she didn't know anything.
No.
So, she was very nice. She was a lovely person, but we used to chat every week.
Which is quite nice, actually.
Yeah, it was nice just to have somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in a sense, having a conversation where one person is trying to learn about things from you is quite a nice open way of having. It's like a power balance, isn't it? It's not us little down there speaking to a great big sort of professional up there. It's very equal, which is nice.
Yeah. We also had, like everybody else, I got loads of leaflets, which, we all.
Were you given those actually at diagnosis?
Yes.
Oh, no. I wasn't. I wasn't given anything at diagnosis.
No, me too. I at the diagnosis I was told, etc. So we covered that last time. But I got a visit 2 weeks later from the community outreach nurse who specialised in young onset dementia.
Oh.
Who is no longer because she retired and they didn't replace her. Because what they said to me was, well, we think all our staff are experts in all dementia, therefore we don't need to have a specialist young onset. So that's where they're coming from. After all, having dementia at 82 is just the same as having dementia at 62, isn't it?
Well, of course it is not.
Not. So she came and she gave me, it was a very memorable meeting. I won't say my personal feelings about her being a bit of a primary school teacher, but she basically came and gave me that bigger pile of leaflets and booklets and things, which at the time, I thought, well, okay, thank you, and all that, but didn't get beyond about leaflet number 2. She also said, now's the time to prepare for later. So things like power of attorney and make sure your will's intact. Just get things arranged while you, I think probably she said while you can, but anyway. Which on the face of it, yes, good, sensible advice, fine. And then she said, and in terms of how you sort of live your life, you've got to stop taking risks. You've got to, a good bit. So don't take risks, don't get tired, and stop doing some of what you're doing now because you're doing too much. She told me. And that's how it was. So,
I was just going to say, I remember, because in our area, the Alzheimer's Society didn't have
Service?
Service. Yeah, it was Dementia Forward. And they'd only just got the service. They'd only just won the contract. And it was this little bookmark. That's why I looked at it, because it was a bookmark, and I love reading. And they had on it this number that you could contact. And so I rang the number, and I wanted to go to them because I didn't know them from Adam. I didn't want anybody coming to my house. And their first thing was, oh no, we don't allow you to come to the office. A, how would you find your way there? And secondly, you know, we'd feel dreadful if you got lost on the way back. So that, you know, I was still going to work. I was still traveling 20 odd miles to work, which I told them. And that immediately put, what, you're still in full-time work? Well, I don't think you need us right now, do you? It was just, I remember it was just a bizarre conversation which put me off everything. You know, it put me off. I just couldn't make sense of why they didn't understand. And obviously then, you know, as time goes on, you then understand that actually people don't understand, full stop. So that was the only phone call I made.
I think what you and well, all of us probably saying is that certainly a few years ago when Gail, you were diagnosed 2 or 3 years ago or something. 2 years ago, and the rest of us are about 6 years ago. But then, at least, there was a sense that services were there for end stage, not anything else. And there's, you know, and I suppose in a sense that it makes us feel that we're written off until we can't sort of and you know, need someone to change our nappies, which might be one day, but not yet. Most days. Dory.
Well, after 6 months of trying to read all this pack, the welcome pack of Alzheimer's, you know, I was still no better off. And then I had a social worker who I hadn't seen really. They were all communicating with my daughter. And then she took me to a young dementia resource centre. They were all the same age as me, thereabouts, but they were in different stages than me. And it was like sitting looking at my future. I mean, it was a great place. I'm not knocking it for these people who really needed it, but I felt I didn't need it at that moment. And when I asked, do I really need to be here? I was told yes, so that I would get, for when the later stages come, when I wouldn't have capacity, I would know the place and the staff, and they would know me, so I wouldn't get distressed. But it was like I was under lock and key, because obviously the doors had to be locked, and weren't allowed to go out to the town. And I would say, oh, can I just go to the shop to get milk or something? And a carer had to come with me. But the rest of the week, I was going out myself.
Plenty.
I just like to add on to my bit that Dementia Forward are a lot better now in Europe. Because they've
and
learned...
there are other brands.
But they learned from the people that they didn't do anything for. Almost, we were the guinea pigs, or we were the people that they realized they didn't help. But the first person to help me, at the time, my daughter was studying nursing at York, and her lecturer was a specialist in dementia that I became friendly with through my daughter. And she told me about the WOW festival that was being held in York, Women of the World. And it was there I met Agnes, because she spoke at that conference. And if I hadn't have gone there, I would have been in a different place now, because it was seeing Agnes talk. But 10 years later at the time, I think, something like that. That suddenly made me realise that, oh, well, if she can do it, I can do it.
Dory?
It's strange. Well, not strange, but in a way, like Wendy meeting Agnes, what changed it for me was meeting Chris Roberts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Doing a Dementia Friends session. Got chatting with him because I didn't know him, but I said I'd not long had a diagnosis, and he said, oh, wait behind, I'll have a chat with you. And through
Took you to the pub?
He
Probably.
Yeah.
That's a very silly question.
Yeah. His office.
Yeah, it's his office. He put me in touch with the Deep Network then, and Rachel.
Yeah.
And that's what changed my life. I met all you people then who have been more help to me than any service that's out there.
Come on, girl.
Yeah. For me, when I got my diagnosis, I think there was quite a few in our area that had just been diagnosed with early onset, and we kept telling the memory clinic and the lady from the Alzheimer's Society that we needed a group, that we needed somewhere where we could talk to one another. For me, they got the group together, said that they would listen to us, and never did. And everything that we suggested, they said that they'd listened, but they hadn't. And this group was formed. The group is okay, but I don't get anything out of that group because they run the group and they're telling us.
Yeah.
And I think that group should be about what we want and not what the people want.
Yeah.
I did find another group, a local group called Freshers, which was totally different. And I was really nervous going to that group the first time, because obviously I didn't know what I was going to expect. And I walked in and it was just a pub, and everyone was laughing and joking.
Is that Peter Little?
Yes. Yeah. And they were just sat round a table, and I couldn't get over that everybody in this room sat round this table was having fun, and they all had a diagnosis. There was one or two people there that was a lot more advanced than me, which was a little scary sort of watching them. But once I'd been a couple of times, it was brilliant. We were just like sat having a natter with everybody. And that's what we need. And then the lockdown came. And the deep and innovations in dementia. And that really changed it for me, because I'd gone from, I don't know, I'd accepted my diagnosis, but then I realised that I was still able to do a lot of things, and things that I'd been told that I couldn't do because I had dementia. I was then, because I was fed up because there was nothing going on, I was looking into how I could start living again. And it was through everybody on the Zoom meetings in the Deep and all these groups, and I was seeing that people we're just normal people, for goodness sake. And
well, hugger muggers.
We just want to do
hugger muggers,
yeah. And I think that for me made me realise that I can still do what I want to do. I might have to adapt, but I can still do it.
Yeah.
So there's a huge message here, isn't there? You know, it's so obvious to us. Oh, so why isn't it obvious to the professionals? Because we've all said how being done to doesn't work.
No.
You know, it's as simple as that, really, isn't it? It's allowing us to simply to live. Just what deep does.
In other words, we, rather than being disabled by services, we actually want to remain able, which we are.
Yeah.
Go on, Dory.
Yeah, the services, I think, they're so set in what's down in the books. They don't want to change. You know, this where I was doing a talk and one of the professionals picked me up and was saying about service users that she had in the speech. And I said, oh, actually, I hate that word, service user. And she said, but that's what's down, and that's what we've always said. So I said, well, the person who uses the services sounds much better, because the person comes into it then. Anyway, I don't know her name, but she got up to start the conference and she was reading this script. And when she come to that bit, she did change the word and said, and for the people that use the services.
Great.
And I thought, she's a good one.
I was going to say they govern so much by rules and what they can and can't do. You know, their risk assessments, their organisational rules, that they develop services using those rules, and they don't fit. They're not fit for purpose.
And I think, risk is a big factor, because I mean, one of the things that NHS trusts in particular, and any other larger organisation do, and indeed should be thinking about, is how can we avoid being a front page story on the Daily Mail saying that we have led to someone's catastrophic murder or something, all getting lost between Euston Station and wherever. So
I've frequently done that.
But so I mean, that's one factor, and while it is understandable they don't want to lead their or allow their patients or do anything that would lead their patients astray, in their view, I think health professionals, especially doctors, are in that job to cure people, and they can't cure us. So in a sense, they're left thinking, well, what can we do? There's nothing we can do. So there's nothing we can do. And that sort of permeates it. Well, and of course they did. And indeed, Dory, you ought to watch out because they might come and do it again. Especially on that.
They wouldn't touch a hugger mugger.
No. A hugger mugger who's lost the plot. So we'll have to explain sometime what I'll have to read the definition of hugger mugger one day. So
too late now, we've got it.
Yeah, we've got it.
Yeah. I don't care what it means.
We've talked about, I think Dora just mentioned about what the services out there, they don't understand us, etc. Well, let me just put this question. What services out there? Because I mean, there are, in various different parts of the country, we all hear occasionally someone saying, oh, God, yeah, I've got really good support there, or whatever else. And it never seems to be where we live, but there we go. Yeah. So what services are there or were there in your area, even if they weren't any good? Because in my area, I got, because I was put on to donepezil, I therefore had, I think by virtue of the contract that the memory service had with the commissioners, I had to have a minimum of 6 monthly follow-up visit just to make sure the medication was still appropriate and whatever. I mean, you know, something might go wrong at month 1 and I'd have 5 more months to wait. But, you know, I suppose they could always argue I could get in touch with them. And they always do say, you can always ring us. And actually, I never do, because I haven't got the experience that suggests that they would say or do anything that I want them to say or do. So I got those visits. And indeed, this delightful community outreach nurse, she came more often because she lived quite close to me, so she tended to come every 3 or 4 months, and I'd do the short memory test, or she'd always say, do you want to do the long one or the short one? And I used to usually say the short one, sometimes the long one. I'd score the usual 97 out of 100 or whatever because I can do it, but I can't remember those damn addresses.
No, I can't.
The name and the address. What on earth am I talking about?
I don't know, George. You're off piece now.
Oh, yeah. Right, over to someone else.
Well, I was going to say, who defines what is a good service? Because I was told once that this course that was available was highly recommended. But highly recommended by who? By the people who developed it. The course was actually rubbish.
What was it?
It was introduction to when you've been diagnosed. I can't remember what he called it.
Was it the Living Well program?
Well, it was something like that. It certainly wasn't our course.
Oh, right. There we go. Overview of the program.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, whatever it was, when you're newly diagnosed, you don't know what a good course is, do you?
No.
You assume that what they're telling you is the right stuff.
Yep.
And it's not till years later, like now, that we can define what's a good course. Because they give us what they think we want to know or what we think we should know. Whereas the course that we run, people with dementia, the Good Life course, we've put together over years of living with dementia.
And that's run by York Minds and Voices, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, and in the East Riding, we've just started it there. But it's it includes the things that we wanted to know when we were diagnosed.
Mm.
You know, on hindsight, hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And if the experts could learn from hindsight, instead of sticking in the mud to what they continue to do.
You're reminding me of our Prime Minister refusing to do a review of the first year of coronavirus. Anyway, I might have to cut that out, but we'll see. So, Gail, what was your course? What did it include?
Right.
Briefly.
Briefly.
I
don't know if I'll be able to do it briefly. Life after diagnosis.
Was that life after death?
Life after diagnosis.
Oh, yeah.
What does living well with dementia mean? Living well and managing dementia in your day-to-day life. Keeping the balance. Managing your health. Keeping the balance. Managing your feelings. Keeping the balance. Support and communication.
Keeping the balance, not falling over.
Myself, my support, and my future planning. Marketplace of information and support and signposting.
My Friendly Face initiative.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Promote that at all. Well, as I said about meeting Chris, that changed how I lived with dementia. And like Wendy, meeting Agnes, they were by chance. And I was just thinking one day, where would my life be now if I hadn't gone to that Dementia Friends session and got introduced to the Deep Network? And I thought it shouldn't be left to chance. You should have the choice.
Yeah.
It should be there. So I got some funding from Bangor University and the Deep Network, and we produced this pamphlet and a fridge magnet. The pamphlets get put with all the others, don't they?
Yeah.
But I thought, get a fridge magnet, you'll stick it on the fridge. And whenever you're ready, because you're seeing it all the time, you might say one day, I'll give that a ring. And it's peer support. Ring this number, and a person with dementia who's living well. And there was Chris on one phone. I covered Flintshire and Wrexham. Chris was covering Denbighshire, and Glenda Roberts was the Welsh-speaking lady.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to speak Welsh. And we asked the memory clinics to give them out. We asked the Alzheimer's Society, could they give them out when they go on their visits?
And how many calls have you had?
I've had 4.
Well, that's something. I mean, it's not a lot.
I know it's not a lot, because
There's 4 people you've helped.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm still in touch with them, even on the phone at the minute. But I'm sure there's more than 4 people in Flintshire and Wrexham been diagnosed.
I know. I mean, I think this quite often.
And I don't think they're promoting it at all.
Yeah. I have, when I was setting up deep groups here in Shropshire, I started about 3-4 years ago. And I asked the memory service, who I was meeting about services in general through 1 or 2 groups that I was in with trusts and things, and I asked them specifically to give out details of the deep groups to everybody who is diagnosed, so that at least they'd have the opportunity to come and try. And I also asked the Alzheimer's Society to. And in fact, the memory service did direct. Well, they wouldn't tell me who they were, but they passed my details to 2 or 3 patients who this community outreach lady said, I think they would shoot you. I'm not quite sure what that meant, but she was effectively selecting, which I didn't think was entirely appropriate. I understand why she did it, but it was wrong. Because actually, like I'm sure all of you, I find our group or groups are comprised of so many different types or backgrounds of people. I mean, it's just people. We're all, we have one thing in common, but we find we have a hell of a lot of other things in common as well as we go forward, just by being people. And it's really, really entertaining meeting people who you'd never meet otherwise. Yeah, go on, Kev.
Yeah, I think for me that these groups where we're meeting all the people that have all had a diagnosis, we can all be ourselves. We can all come out of ourselves. We can just do what we want to do because we haven't got anybody telling us that, well, you shouldn't be like that or you can't be like that. So we're more relaxed with people. And I think that is just one of the best things, because when they're sending you to somewhere and you're speaking to a professional people, it's like that you're being watched and observed all the time. And it's like every single movement that you make or anything that comes out of your mouth, in a way, you're frightened of saying the wrong thing. For if they say something else, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing that. And I've not heard of that one before. I don't know. The professional people, I get it a lot with when I go to the hospital for my checkup. I've never seen anybody from the memory clinic since I was diagnosed because I just haven't seen anybody. But I do have a regular checkup with my, can't remember her name, consultant. Anyway, somebody at the hospital. And she often pulls me up for, going on my own. That's the major thing, because I shouldn't be going on my own. I should have somebody with me at all times. Why should I? I go and walk around the park on my own. So why do I need somebody to come with me to the hospital? I can take notes. It so annoys me. And it's like taking something away from you. And they shouldn't be doing that. They should be encouraging us to carry on doing things. Because we're a normal person at the end of the day. We're just normal. We still, as I say, I'm still me. I'm still Gail. Just because I've got some things that's going wrong, I'm still me.
And we still can, and we still can learn. As I've been giving them cards out, Gail, that you taught me to make. I get the Easter one. Oh, it's brilliant. And the one, the get well one with the plaster. I've wrote that one for my grandson. So we can learn.
We can.
So the biggest lesson for everybody today is the power of peer support.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Well, I was going to ask, as a sort of maybe final point, was what actually at our stage, from diagnosis to where we are now, what would good have looked like? What would good support have been?
Giving you hope, telling you what's out there, but letting you know what's there that can help you. Like direct payments to help you, or because you can't ask if you don't know they're there. You can't ask for them, can you? So
exactly,
that's the problem when you're diagnosed. You don't know what you don't know.
No,
and they should be the ones that have learned from things like this what works best.
And
we're telling them.
But they only talk to people at diagnosis or at crisis level later.
Yeah.
Therefore, we're always in the position of not being in control of the conversation, and wondering what's going on, and before we can actually gather our ideas together, which might take a few weeks, well, it does take a few weeks.
Yes.
We've lost them. So
so it's the professionals that have stuck in their world. They haven't developed, like we develop our ideas, change our ideas, move on. Professionals haven't. They're stuck in their sense of, this is what we do. We diagnose, we discharge, and we don't give hope, because that's
they
not
don't give hope.
They always pass the buck.
Have any of you, I think I know the answer to this before I start, but have any of you had anything like a dementia navigator?
Me?
No. Yeah, well, quite with a navigator. No, well, I just asked that because I know that they are, well, a dementia advisor, navigator, someone who has a fair amount of skill and training in understanding dementia, who would then be your contact from diagnosis onwards. The person who would get to know you and you would get to know, and who could help you only when you needed it or wanted it, asked for it, either to have a conversation or to help you go along to a new group or something, or even suggest that you might think about a group to get you out or whatever.
I have got, I didn't know that's what he was called.
They're called different things everywhere.
A dementia support worker.
Oh, that's not quite the same. But
who I can phone if I need him.
Yeah, I've got something very similar to that. But
who provides that?
The Alzheimer's Society.
Yeah, dementia support workers are more like information workers, advisors. So the model that is certainly out there in a number of areas is, and it comes back to the old Admiral Nurse thing as well, a triangle of care, so that top level is Admiral Nurses who are real specialists. Middle level would be dementia navigators who have a good knowledge, good understanding, but also know the locality quite well and can actually provide you with the one-to-one stuff when you need it at any time. And then you've got the dementia support workers who are more attuned to providing information and advice, and who don't have the skills or understanding to do the sort of reasonably professional approach to things. However good they are at what they do, I mean, I've
never phoned him for anything because I don't really know what he does. So how can I phone him to?
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did go back to the memory clinic and at one time, and they said I wasn't with them anymore because they're only dealing with people in crisis. And I did say, well, don't you understand, if we got more support now, we wouldn't get to crisis as quick as we may. And so you're saving money that way.
Yeah.
It's a bit like falls clinics. Why go to a falls clinic after you've had a fall? Isn't it better if you go before you have a fall to avoid a fall? And yet when I talk to not any actually, but some medics, or for that matter, other staff, they tend to say, well, we only have referrals from people who've had a fall and often broken something and ended up in hospital.
I've been putting them on my blog every Friday.
Yeah.
And the comments that have been coming through have been totally amazing. So we need to keep doing them.
I've seen some great comments
Yeah.
too. And, I mean, it shows there is an appetite out there for this sort of conversation from people who know and have lived it and are living it.
The experts by experience.
So and you think to yourself, well, if there are so many people out there, I mean, we're talking thousands probably, who have been retweeting and reading and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of them are professionals, healthcare professionals in some way, like OTs or nurses or whatever. And you think to yourself, well, if they get it, how come we've still got the same bleeding services or lack of?
It's they're in the minority. The system is what's holding them back.
But maybe the system may change if we keep doing these.
Oh, it will do eventually. I mean, it's just such a damn slow. We're at the pinnacle, mate. We're at the pinnacle.
Yeah, we're the hugger-muggers.
Hugger-muggers.
And for those who don't know, look it up.
Have a lovely day, everybody.
Next time, I think we will look at stereotyping and myths. Okay.